Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, steep development and trouble, Bayonetta on Switch, a Splatoon 2 Direct incoming, and the rest of your Nintendo news for the week of July 4th, 2017. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, joined as always by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. How's it going, Mark?
Patrick, it's going great. How are you?
I'm doing well. We are on the precipice of a holiday.
That's right.
It is the 4th of July.
It was basically a holiday today for all intents and purposes.
That's
Traffic was a dream.
A similar dream, the weather.
Oh, man, it's beautiful.
It's warm, but not too warm. It's not humid.
No, it's a little breezy.
It's a little bit America the Beautiful.
I'm looking outside through your beautiful window.
Thank you.
And the sky's blue, a little bit of pink as the sun sets. Great day to be alive.
It is a great, I will echo that 100%. It is a great day to be alive. Do we need to talk about weather in other places?
We do.
Okay.
We do need to talk about weather in other places because we solicited requests for, look, we had been very LA-centric.
That's right.
But this is a podcast for the people.
And
yes. Not all the people live in LA.
You and I do.
We do.
We do, and the podcast lives in LA.
Yes.
But as we serve the people.
Right. So we solicited weather from elsewhere in case you needed a weather report from us. And we are continuing to solicit that.
So if you want to send some weather to us.
If you want to send a city.
There we go.
And it doesn't even have to be a city you live in. If you are just curious about the city's weather, send that city to us. We will provide you the weather for that city in general broad terms.
Some things that we need to get clear, though. These need to be cities on the planet Earth.
Yes.
In this timeline. In this dimension.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, all those things are true. Anyways, this week's weather request comes from Anthony, friend of the show, co-host of Nintendo Love Fest, another wonderful Nintendo podcast, requesting the weather for Wednesbury in Britain.
It seems like they're also having kind of a pleasant summer. Yes.
Yeah, it's like low to upper 70s Fahrenheit, a little bit of rain here and there.
Seems totally pleasant.
It seems really nice.
Look, it's a great time to be alive. That's right. Mark, let's move on to what we're playing this week. Let's talk about the things we're playing. Mark, what have you been playing?
Well, Breath of the Wild DLC came
yes.
out on Friday, and I've been sinking most of my time into that, which we won't talk about a bunch here because we're going to be talking about it on Thursday.
That's right. I have similarly been playing a ton of it and just want to talk to you about it. Have been keeping my mouth shut, but I've been playing a lot of that. I picked up Mighty Gunvolt Burst on the Switch. Excuse me. It is as much a Mighty Number 9 game as it is a Gunvolt game. At the beginning, you pick which of these two characters you're going to play as, and it defaults to Beck, which is the Mighty Number 9. Or you could play as Gunvolt. And the whole thing is a Mega Man game.
That's what I was going to ask. Because it defaults to Mighty Number 9, which is just defaulting to Mega Man, and I'm assuming the other game is basically Mega Man-esque as well.
Here's the thing: is that it's the same game, just with different characters.
Oh.
And the whole game is incredibly Mega Man-y, or Mega Man-esque, not Mega Man X. It's got gorgeous 8-bit pixel graphics, with amazing lighting effects. Like the way this game looks visually is so stunning and so striking, and has an amazing mix of old school and new tech that just makes it look amazing, and it plays great.
So you're enjoying it.
I'm loving this.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell.
No, I
Through
love
all
this
of
game.
this, I couldn't tell if it was good or bad.
This game is great. It's got a cool mechanic where you collect these customization points, and then you can change like base attributes about either your weapons or your health or just like the physics of your gun. So like the whole thing takes place in a VR simulation that the characters are experiencing. So if you want to be like, my bullets curve up for no reason, you can spend some customization points and change it. So like everything about the way you interact with the game can be customized just sort of like on the fly, and as you're like messing with the simulation. It's super fun.
I guess because like the stench of Mighty Number 9
Yes.
is so permeating that I assume that anything associated with it is suspect.
Here's the thing is that it's an Inti Creates game, and they make good games, and also Mighty Number 9. So like I don't know, the pedigree of the developer is shining through over the pedigree of the IP in this case. I'm really enjoying it. It's been a fun surprise for me. Have you been playing anything else besides Zelda?
No, it's been a Zelda-heavy week.
All Zelda, all the time. I've been throwing a couple punches in arms too, but I don't have anything new to report on that front. Mark, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into what we might be playing next week. That means it's time for new releases. It's a weird list this week.
There's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. I don't know what of this is super that we actually need to talk about.
Well, let's just hit the highlights.
There you go.
Okay, so on the 3DS eShop, Kirby's Blowout Blast is coming out. Watched a little gameplay video of it. This is on July 6th, so Thursday.
That's right.
It looks, I don't know. It looks interesting, cute, of course, because it's like a Kirby game.
Right.
It seems like the main mechanic. Have you seen any video of it?
Here's the thing. They announced so many Kirby games, and I can't remember which one is which.
Okay.
Which one is this?
So it looks like each level is basically your goal is you inhale creatures, obviously, but instead of swallowing them to get their abilities, you shoot them out, and you're trying to like rack up combos by hitting as many enemies as possible.
Okay.
And if you've like inhaled 2 enemies, then you get double the points for as many as you hit.
Okay.
And it kind of looks like, at least in some of the stages, that your goal is just to like clear out the enemies, and then it's kind of like a high score run type thing.
Yeah. Is this the one that's 3D or 2D?
It's 3D.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I like a good like score attack, time attack kind of game. Another thing that I'm enjoying about Mighty Gunvolt Burst is that it keeps track of like your combos in it, and it's all very like score and time based.
I think it's interesting that because it's coming out on the eShop, I think it's a smaller release.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what the price point on it is, but it's something that I would be interested in picking up. Because I really like Kirby games, but at the same token, I feel like it's a lot of times like diminishing returns. But I don't know that I need a full Kirby game all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we both passed on
the
Planet Robobot. Yeah. It looked like a perfectly serviceable Kirby game.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I just don't always need $40 worth of Kirby.
That's a lot of Kirby.
Let's see. Okay, so Demambo seems to be coming out on Switch this week. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, that's because we said it was coming out last week, and in Japan, came out, it did.
Very good. That was good parallel sentence structure.
But it seems like, especially for indies, release dates are really loose, obviously fluid. More than once it has happened where a game just hasn't come out when it was announced and then it came out a couple weeks later, or
like
never.
Goner or
Right.
like Pocket Rumble.
Right, or like Constructor. Do you remember that when we like briefly talked about that game?
I'm still mad about Pocket Rumble.
So, Demambo seems like it's coming out this week. There's a bunch of, and on the Switch eShop, there's a bunch of indie games coming out this week on the Switch eShop. Implosion, I and Me. The Neo Geo game is Metal Slug 2,
which is a good one.
A game that, let's see, it's either, I think it's called, it's a play on sheep, so it's like Shepfy.
Sheepy.
It's like a card. It's a one-player like card game, almost like Solitaire, from my understanding, where you're trying to count up to 1,000 sheep.
Oh, geez.
And then a game called Vaccine, which is like supposed to be like old school survival horror.
It's not about giving babies autism?
It's not about giving babies autism.
All right, good.
Because that's not what happens.
Absolutely 100% not what happens. Nintendo Cartridge Society is pro-vaccination.
Do it.
Vaccinate your kids. I think maybe the exciting release for the week, right, is not actually Nintendo. It's Nintendo adjacent. The Castlevania Netflix series comes out on Friday.
That's right, July 7th.
And as we know, that is written by the great Warren Ellis.
Which is the only reason I'm interested in this show at all.
I mean, also the Castlevania name carries some weight, right?
Sure, but I mean, if somebody was like, hey, there's a Castlevania anime out,
yeah,
I wouldn't
no
necessarily. Yeah, I'd just be like, okay, that's cool.
I'm just saying it's a combination of factors that has you saying, like, maybe we should check this out.
Yeah.
Fears about it? Do you have any fears? Like, our hopes, I think, are obvious, right? Like, Castlevania is a, like, monster mashup vampire hunting series that we like. And Warren Ellis is a smart writer who can do a lot with schlocky stuff. Do we have other hopes, other fears?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, if it's bad, who cares?
We walk away.
You know, like,
we never speak of it again.
We don't have any stakes in it.
Boo.
But since we will definitely be watching it, I guess my fear is that it's just not fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's so self-serious.
Yeah, and the series always kind of walks that line, right?
Right.
Of, like, being too self-serious.
Well, and the bad entries tread on the side of, like, taking themselves too seriously.
Well, they trample it. They just bowl it over.
Yeah. Like, I'm thinking of Lord of Shadow, the like reboot.
Was that the
like God of War-esque reboot?
Yeah, the PlayStation 3 ones. Yeah.
Steam.
Yeah, I mean, there's
especially the sequel was especially like they're just like really like ponderous and like heavy, and like does anybody remember where these games came from?
I mean, just as knockoffs of like vampire movies, like that's all we want. That's all we wanted was the like ridiculousness of the shared universal monster movie universe in a video game. That's what we got, and then I don't know, someone thought it should be more than that.
And I'm happy for it to be more than that. I just want it to not be too like full of itself.
Look, it could be anything if it's good.
Right? No, that's true. That's a great point.
If it's super full of
really
itself
great point.
And like super pompous and like contemplative and whatever, as long as it's good, I'm there.
We're definitely watching it.
Well, yeah, well that's definitely true. Mark, any other new releases you want to touch on, or can we move out of this and over to the news?
Sounds good.
But first, it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, let's talk about birds.
Yeah, I feel like this is a spiritual follow-up to our discussion on bugs.
Okay, so what's the connection there? They both fly? Is it birds and bees? Is that what you're seeing?
Are bees insects?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah, 100%. You brought this one up.
Yeah, I think they're both gross.
Oh, okay.
Is what it comes down to.
So birds, there are a lot of birds.
Mhm.
A lot of different kinds of birds. Some fly, some don't.
Yeah.
Do you have a least favorite bird? What is it that's got you thinking about birds and how much you dislike them?
Personally, I don't understand birds as pets.
Yeah, okay. They're noisy. You can't pet them.
Yeah.
I it- I think that there's a greater problem with pets overall.
Okay.
Because there are some people that'll be like, this is my pet tarantula, snake, scorpion, fish. These are all equally bad pets.
Do you think that it is
Rats.
rats are at least smart?
Eh, I really don't care. It's got to be a cat or a dog,
Well, in your
maybe a potbelly pig.
in your opinion, do pets have to be capable of returning affection?
Yes.
Like, is that what qualifies it as a pet?
I mean,
Because like fish aren't able, like tarantulas aren't able to show affection because they don't feel it.
right. And if they did, it would be horrifying. No, I feel like a fish or a snake or anything like that is basically the equivalent of a plant or a decoration, right? Like it's living, yes, but it's just there. And this is a totally mammal centric view of the world. I acknowledge, but like it doesn't seem it. I got no time for it. I see no value in it in my home.
I mean, do you think anybody really loves their turtle?
Absolutely. Someone loves their turtle, for sure. If you love your turtle, you can write into NintendoCartridgeSociety at gmail.com. Did you ever know anyone who had a bird as a pet?
Yes, and I respect them, even though I don't respect their choice of pet. And I think that's a fine distinction.
Yes. Well, absolutely. I mean, you live your own life. I just dismissed most of the animal kingdom by saying that I only want mammals as pets.
There was a point in my life where my dad was feeding putting so much bird feed in the backyard that it was attracting scary amount of birds and also raccoons and other wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like free food that was lying around.
You didn't like that?
Not so much.
Does your dad like birds?
I don't think especially.
So what's he doing?
I don't know.
What is this?
I don't know.
My mother very strongly dislikes birds, and we've never been able to get to the bottom of it. It's just one of those things. She just doesn't like them. Refuses to talk about it further.
Because it's like refuses and like she won't talk about it. Like she won't, like she refuses to discuss it, or she's just never been forthcoming.
No, like we have asked, like, hey, why don't you like birds? And she's just like, I just think they're gross.
Now let's say something positive about birds. What's your favorite bird?
I like penguins.
Penguins are fun.
The penguins are fun birds. I like the bird that teaches you how to use the like hyper jump in Super Metroid. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I mean that's not a real bird, but okay.
Well, okay. I also like Big Bird.
Okay, well, also not a weird.
So
real
don't
bird.
put limits on my joy. What's your favorite bird? Ooh, I've got a runner-up.
Okay, great.
A hummingbird. I like hummingbirds.
Oh, those are fun.
I think they're cool.
Yeah.
They almost cross the line between like bug and bird.
Yeah.
Right?
For a second, I had to really think about it and be like, is a hummingbird really a bird? But I guess they are.
What else would it be?
I don't know.
What's your favorite bird? Come on.
Come
on, smart guy.
I guess I like parakeets can be fun, right?
Because it talks?
Yeah.
I had a friend who had it was actually a boss of mine when I was working for a construction company in high school. He had maybe not a parakeet, but a bird that would talk. But the bird basically only swore. It would just swear at him and then like whistle.
There were a lot of artists even at that
time.
Oh
my goodness!
All
right, that's the end of this video. If you have any thoughts on birds, you can send them on over to Nintendo Cartridge Society
at
gmail.com. Mark, let's move into the news.
It's officially July.
Woo!
Yeah, so you know what that means. It's Splatoon 2 month. Finally. Nintendo is, of course, revving up its promo machine, and it's announced that a new Splatoon 2 Direct for this Thursday, July 6th at 7 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. It promises information about some of the new features, weapons, and styles in the game.
And, of course, we'll be talking about it next week.
Yes.
For sure.
And I'm so excited for Splatoon 2.
Yeah, I'm excited about Splatoon 2 as well.
I'm real bummed that the special edition Joy-Con controllers aren't coming out here. The green and pink ones.
But you had mentioned that you were going to get a Pro Controller for Splatoon 2.
That's right.
Is that still the plan?
Yeah, I think so. I think I think that it'll just be nice to have in general.
Absolutely.
And it'll be good to play Splatoon 2 with it. I'm hoping to get the special edition one that is coming here.
And that has the pink and green grips?
Like grip things?
Yeah.
But I imagine those will be really hard to get.
Yeah. As all Nintendo things invariably are hard to get. Do we have any other, hopes for this thing? I mean, I feel like we kind of know what Splatoon 2 is going to be. It's kind of past the point of new amiibo. We know there are a handful coming. I guess 3. Any other big announcements that we think or suspect or that are rumored or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't. I guess kind of the nice thing for me going into Splatoon 2 is I am expecting to enjoy it, but other than that, I don't really have super high expectations for it. What I'm really looking for is to scratch that kind of competitive multiplayer arena shooter.
Yeah.
That, because it's been a few years since I've picked up a Call of Duty, and I don't play Destiny as much anymore. And obviously they're not 100% comparable, right? They're not the same games.
Right, not at all.
But it's something that I'm really looking forward to getting into. So even if it is just what we saw in the test fire over and over, that's enough for me.
Right. Well, and this is a version of that kind of game that I like to play. So we could play this together. This is actually one thing that I'm hoping they talk about explicitly is how matchmaking and sort of the meta game works. From there are just so many little fixes and little inconveniences in the original Splatoon that I want to see how they're addressing it for the sequel, and if it's just a better online multiplayer experience.
Well, one thing they keep threatening is that the app for Switch Online Play is going to be released kind of in a beta this summer. And we haven't heard anything about it outside of that. And I think Splatoon 2 is a logical time for that to launch.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the Direct will touch on that a little bit as well.
Right. And or possibly release simultaneously with the Direct, right? That's something that could happen. Be and this app is available now and functions with, Mario Kart and ARMS or whatever. That's totally possible.
Well, that's what I wonder is if and they haven't said anything about it, so we don't really know. But I wonder if this app is going to work with anything online. So if it will work with ARMS and it will work with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or when it first comes out, is it just going to be for Splatoon 2?
Man, that would be weird and limited, and why wouldn't it work with these other things?
I don't know.
I mean, Nintendo is the answer.
Maybe that'll be their we're again this is a beta.
Yeah.
So we're just limiting it to this until we expand it later in 2018. I mean, I really don't know.
The one thing that was present in the original Splatoon that I'm curious if it'll come back is you had the option to unlock fake arcade games in the Squidling universe that you could play while matches were loading, and they were half of them were fun. There were 4 of them total. And 2 of them were really good, and one was totally disposable, and another one I just couldn't really wrap my head around. But I'm curious if there are more of those, if they maybe like up the generation so that it's more like NES home like I just want to know. I want to know all of like the dressing around.
Well, I will be surprised if they reveal too much of that stuff.
Sure.
Because Nintendo really likes to play things close to the vest, and then once you get your hands on it is when you get to like see stuff like that.
Right.
So I don't know that I mean, it'd be cool if we find out more about it, but I don't know that we'll actually learn more about it until release.
Yeah.
So Nintendo held its annual shareholder meeting last week, and during this meeting, a variety of like information about the company came out. Most of it more like boring and corporate than we usually talk about, because we're cool. We're not corporate.
Right. But let's go bullet point by bullet point this whole meeting from the beginning.
One of the things that came out is the shareholder approval rating for the 5 directors on the company's board of directors. And the one that's most interesting to me is like Kimishima's, who is the CEO
That's right.
of Nintendo. His approval rating went up almost or a little over 10% from where it was last year to 97.7%.
Which just means that the Nintendo shareholders are happy with the way he's steering the ship. I think it's a good time to be like invested in Nintendo, right?
Yeah, it's did we talk about this last week that its market share is higher than Sony at the moment?
Ooh, we did not talk about that last week.
Oh, yeah, it is. Which again, like all that means is that investors
Are excited. Right. And it's new hardware upon new hardware upon new hardware, and all this amazing software as well. So like it's just Nintendo firing on all cylinders, including the mobile strategy, which is actually doing well.
The other thing from the shareholders meeting was that we all learned once again that terrible shareholder questions at at big companies' shareholder meetings is a universal thing.
Yes. I love that from these like shareholder meetings, there's always like the video game people always try to like report on it, and that's when you realize that like people who invest in Nintendo don't know anything about video games.
Right.
But
or
also
care.
they don't know, they don't know or care. But also they don't know or care about like anything. They're just like there asking questions.
There's like two sides to it. They're like, and this is true of like any company that engenders some amount of like fan. Like nobody's like a Monsanto fan, right? Nobody like dresses up like
no one cosplays as like corn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like genetically modified corn.
Right. And not the band Corn. I'm sure someone cosplays as the band Corn.
C, not K.
That was disturbed. I'm sorry.
Any true to Corn fans knew that. But so like any company that engenders like some sort of fandom, there's always two sides to it. This happens with Apple. This happens especially with companies like Disney and Nintendo, where there are the people who have invested in it because they are fans of the company, and usually their investment is smaller.
Right.
And so they're the ones that always ask the questions like, can I get free tickets to Super Nintendo World when it opens at Universal Studios?
Why are your churros so hot?
Right. This one time, an employee was mean to me at Disneyland. How come, I'm not emperor of the world? And then there's the other people and so those people don't understand the business side of the company. And then there's the like corporate investors who they're investing it as an actual like monetary investment for the future. And they don't understand like the fun part of the company.
Right. So what kind of investor? I guess there's no good answer here, right? Because like we need both types, and we should just not be getting our like news or exciting tidbits from investor meetings.
Yeah, exactly.
But Kimishima's approval rating is 97.7.
A Dutch PR company has confirmed they are handling PR for the Western release of Dragon Quest XI. So previously, we've all been operating under the assumption that Dragon Quest XI will probably make its way west. And honestly, even with that bit of news, we're still just operating under the assumption because nothing's been officially announced.
Right. It would be weird for them to hire a PR company to not release the game.
Right. Well,
in the West.
So the news came from gamer.nl, which is a Dutch site. And as far as I can tell, they don't mention the name of the PR company, but that might be because the PR company isn't supposed to say anything about it. And so,
Sure.
they're just getting it from like anonymous sources.
Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to think that Gamer.nl is lying, and I have no reason to think that Dragon Quest XI won't be coming over in some form. We don't know if that means that it'll just be the PlayStation 4 version, if it'll be the 3DS version, if it'll be both, or if like the Switch version will be in there at some
thereof,
point.
right?
We don't know when it'll be coming over. I'm sure no sooner than 2018.
This story doesn't get less weird with time, does it?
Dragon Quest XI?
Yeah.
So, what was new to me, I was learning this week, is that it originally started purely as a PS4 project. Because the creator wanted to make like a big budget, high definition Dragon Quest game, and that the 3DS version came later. And I'm assuming it came later because they looked at the sales of the PS4 in Japan and they looked at the sales for the 3DS in Japan and they were like, huh.
Right, but like, I mean, worldwide, and I understand Dragon Quest is a Japanese franchise, and it always has a bigger fan base in Japan than anywhere else. I'm answering my own question here. But worldwide, there are just about the comparable number of PS4s to 3DSs, right? Like, those are the two biggest platforms that are being developed for at the moment. But yeah, I answered my own question. Was Japan. It's Japan. The answer is Japan.
So in the past, when a Dragon Quest game has come out over here, it's because Nintendo had paid for the localization and for like the marketing and everything.
When it comes out on a Nintendo platform.
Yes, that's right. So who knows what will happen here? I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan. I own a PS4. I'm excited for whatever version it comes out here, but it'll be interesting to learn more whenever they decide to tell us.
Quick question: did you play Final Fantasy 15 at all?
No.
Yeah, me neither. Do you consider yourself a big Final Fantasy fan?
No.
Did you at one point? I'm trying to like figure out where on the Final Fantasy v Dragon Quest scales you fall.
So I think when I was younger, I was definitely more of a Final Fantasy fan, and that's because I didn't have access to Dragon Quest at that point.
Sure.
And didn't really.
I mean, they also kind of went through a period where like they couldn't fail.
With Final Fantasy.
With Final Fantasy,
definitely
in the States, like 2, 3, 7 are great games.
Yeah, 9 is amazing.
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest 9 was my first. The one on DS was my first Dragon Quest game, and it wasn't until afterwards that I went back and played some of the other ones that were available. So I think now I have more love in my heart for Dragon Quest, and that's just because the series, for better or worse, has stayed largely the same, and I really like what it does, whereas Final Fantasy chooses to reinvent itself every time, and so it's more hit and miss.
Right. And like Final Fantasy reinvents itself every time. It like there's kind of a clear line, like you can track what it has become, and it just with every new iteration since 10, it becomes less and less like the thing I liked in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about this when 11 eventually does get announced, but I'm just going to plant the question in your head. Is this something that I should be paying attention to?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I mean, I think you should get Dragon Quest 8 for 3DS.
No.
And I think you should play that.
Answer me this. Have you gotten to a fight yet in Dragon Quest
7? No, of course not.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to pick it up because the downside to all this is new stuff is being released all the time, and it's hard to go back to old games.
Of course.
Because I keep being like, oh, when there's a lull in new releases,
I'll
play
no such
Dragon
thing
Quest
anymore.
7. Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Platinum Games is maybe teasing something regarding Bayonetta and Switch. On their recently opened Japanese Twitter account, the company posted a new drawing by series producer and director of Bayonetta 2, Yusuke Hashimoto, of the character with a red background and one with a blue background. This led some fans to speculate it was a reference to the blue and red Joy-Con controllers of the Switch, and Platinum liked to tweet about the connection and some other messages about Bayonetta on Switch. Of course, this could all mean nothing.
Right, but
we know Platinum is working on something.
We know Platinum's working on something. and something for the Switch, and that could very well be Bayonetta. They obviously have a relationship with Nintendo, and that Bayonetta 2 was a Wii U exclusive.
I think is still a Wii U exclusive. Or is it on? I don't think it's on PC. I think just the first one is on PC. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're both on Steam now.
No, I think you're right. I think that 2 is still a Wii U exclusive. That's a game that we should play, right? On the Wii U, and then talk about. Even if it ends up not being one of those games orphaned on that system and brought over to the Switch, it still seems like one of those pieces of software that we should know more about.
Well, and I think that even if they aren't making a Bayonetta 3, I think a Bayonetta 1 and 2, like a Bayonetta 1 remaster,
right,
and re-release on the Switch would do very well.
Yeah,
because Bayonetta 2 again was on the Wii U, which is a system that not very many people owned, and so it would be a way to recoup some of those like development costs.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and like Bayonetta is just it's like so close to like really popping as like a flagship IP for Platinum that like they just need to like pump out one more game that like people are really playing, and then it'll be a God of War, and then then it's like real and it's here forever, and Bayonetta's never going away.
The thing I think is weird is I feel like we went from this place as gamers in the beginning of this generation, where PS3 to PS4 remasters and like Xbox 360 to Xbox One remasters were kind of looked on as cheap cash grabs.
Right, it was a dirty word.
And now they're like some of the best-selling games.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I don't know. We're in such a weird climate right now, just with remakes and remasters. The first 3 Crash Bandicoot games just came out again. Crash Bandicoot, Mark. I don't even know what to say about that. But they're games that people are like actually playing and excited about. So yeah, Bayonetta can definitely join that lineup.
Nicholas is working on an update to Cave Story Plus on Switch that will allow players to change the graphics to the original visuals rather than the high-res sprites that are in the game currently.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It's something that's been available on other versions of the game, and having that option. So on the version currently, there's like 4 or 5 different music versions that you can cycle through. The one thing that I wish, and one thing that I think would be nice if they're able to do with this update to the graphics, is if you're able to switch on the fly versus, because right now you have to back all the way out to the main menu to switch the soundtrack type. And it'd be cool to just be able to do it like from a pause menu. Same with like the graphics, to be able to like toggle back and forth.
Yeah, that is also it's the same case with Ultra Street Fighter, that you can change soundtrack and graphic style, but you have to like back out of the game and then go back into it.
There's also an update coming that will allow for co-op play in the game for the first time later this summer.
Does that seem like does co-op seem like it could make sense? Like split screen or 2 separate screens, or
no? I think you could do it almost like New Super Mario Brothers style, where you're on you have to be on the same screen at the same time, and then you kind of like bubble in if you get too far off or something like that.
Man, that bubble solves some problems.
I was tweeting about this earlier this week, and I know that we all kind of got burned out on New Super Mario Brothers as a series, but I really would love a new like side-scrolling 2D Mario game on Switch.
So I agree with you. Side-scrolling 2D Mario, yes, I've got a hankering for it.
Well, and like co-op or like having multiplayer, because that's perfect for the Switch.
I totally agree. I would like it to move away from the new art style, from the new Super Mario Brothers art style.
I have never really loved the aesthetic, although I think it worked well on the DS. And the music has always kind of been a bummer to me. I don't feel like it's
not quite as iconic. And, also worked well on the phone. I feel like Super Mario Run, that aesthetic worked well for it. So who knows? We'll see new Super Mario again for sure.
So there was some speculation this week that part of the reason there haven't been any pre-orders for the Super NES Classic in North America is that the machine hadn't received FCC certification. But the NES, so the Super NES Classic doesn't require FCC certification.
Okay.
Because so
what does this mean, Mark?
Okay, so basically there were some like people were like, "Oh, that's why it hasn't been happening. As soon as it's certified by the FCC in America, then they'll put it up for pre-order." And what I'm saying is that that is not true.
Right. Okay.
Because that is not what's delaying pre-orders. If anything's delaying pre-orders, because the Super NES Mini, just like the NES Classic, does not require FCC certification. Only things that emit radio waves. So if it had a Wi-Fi receiver, if it had Bluetooth, then it would require FCC certification, but it doesn't have any of those things. It's just an electronic device.
Unless it does, and we just don't know about it yet.
Great point. That's a really strong point.
So, confirmed here.
So Nintendo of America has only said that they have nothing to announce regarding pre-orders at this time. That could mean that they are never doing pre-orders, which feels most likely to me, or that pre-orders could happen at like any moment. Like at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, a store could open up for pre-orders.
Also, they could say on a Monday, Tuesday, pre-orders will be available. I mean, anything is possible. And mostly I'm just planning to take the morning off and stand in line. What's the date of that?
September 29th, I believe.
There we go.
Rumors from IGN France this week that one of the first games announced for Switch, Steep from Ubisoft, has run into development trouble.
No.
They report that Ubisoft is having problems getting this game running on Switch, and that Nintendo has apparently lent its assistance. The game's online features are specifically called out as being problematic. One of IGN's sources said that they couldn't even promise that the game would eventually be released. Ubisoft, for their part, says the game is still coming to Switch, but has no other details to provide.
So online functionality struggling to operate on the Switch. That's something that we've been hearing a little bit of, right? Just on other games. It's a bummer, but it seems like it was the same kind of stumbling block we're going to encounter through the thing's life cycle, right?
Yeah, and I do wonder how much of this is... I mean, it doesn't even seem like Nintendo has their online entirely in order. You know what I mean? Because it's like, yes, Mario Kart works, and yes, ARMS works and all that stuff, but it seems like ad hoc solutions versus, again, like they haven't even launched their app,
right?
And they're not planning on doing so until 2018. So maybe that is, again, I am not a programmer. I know basically nothing about this, so that might be a totally different thing than what's going on with the games.
I mean,
but it seems like there is a pattern.
Yeah, at the very least, it seems like it's just not a priority for Nintendo to have that lined up over the software or just having the hardware out.
And not to be glib, but it's not that Steep would be terribly missed if it doesn't come to the Switch.
Sure.
I think it's more what the problems that they're having are emblematic of.
Absolutely.
That is like the real story.
Right.
The full S-Switch SDK, which is the software development kit, leaked online this past week. It included in the documentation is news that Nintendo is developing a save data transfer feature. This is one of the console features everybody's been asking for since day one. So it's nice to see Nintendo is working on some sort of solution.
So save data transfer just from one console to the next?
I believe so, because currently you cannot do that.
I mean, that sort of makes sense. I know that was baked into the Wii U because it was designed to play so many Wii games, and that it would transfer all of your data over, including save data and games and stuff. And it was really cute. They're like little Pikmin that like walked your data from one machine over to the next. But it's nice that they're addressing this on the Switch.
I think everybody's hope, and who knows if this will actually be a thing, is for cloud saves.
Yes.
Because then you could buy, 2 Switches and be able to
play between them.
play between them. Versus even with if it's like the 3DS's version, or I'm guessing like the Wii's version, it's like a permanent transfer. You're not saving.
Right.
It's too cumbersome to keep going like back and forth. That's something that that other platforms have supported for quite some time now.
Right. Well, and using like cross save as well for like PS Vita and PlayStation 4. Any game that's like cross play would also have cross save feature.
And you're supposed to be able to do something like that with Monster Hunter Double Cross from the 3DS to the
great
Switch,
point.
but I don't know what that entails exactly.
It also sounds like that's a little bit baked into Minecraft going forward, right? Even on the Switch, it's going to be doing cross-platform play, and I guess that is partially because and did we talk about this when we were talking about Minecraft and the cross play for like all platforms except the Sony platforms? That you need to sign in with an Xbox Live account to play it on any of those. So if you want to play Switch in like this crossplay format, you have to log into Xbox Live.
Because I think we might be talking about two different things. Because I think crossplay is just saying that I, on my Switch, could go online and play with you in the game, even though you're playing on an Xbox One.
Right.
We'd be able to play in the same sandbox. Where that's not saying that I could take my Switch save data and move it to the Xbox One.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it is a little, but it's the spirit is the same, right? Of like, play it any way you can, save it anywhere you can, and use that data anywhere.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The document also states Nintendo is looking at the possibility of adding a guest account option to the system.
It's weird that there isn't one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of those to me are like one of those things that's like interesting that has not been resolved yet.
Right. And, meanwhile, you could still not change your PlayStation Network username. So that's something that's been like that for like 13 years. So.
True. That's true. Okay, this is near and dear to my heart, but the latest Jake Hunter title, Jake Hunter Detective Story Ghost of the Dusk, for the 3DS is going to be coming west in 2018 thanks to Axis. This was a game that was announced when Arc System Works purchased the IP last year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I never... these are just visual novels. I never thought it was going to get localized and get a Western release, but it is, and it makes me so happy. I've only played one of these games because only one was localized previously for the DS, and I can't wait to play another one.
So are there then missing chapters that you don't have in the Jake Hunter saga?
There's a ton. These games have been coming out since I think the Famicom.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah, like this is a very old series that has had many entries. I'm sure some good and some bad.
Of course.
Some of them were remade in the DS title, but I don't think they're like continuing chapters. It's more like a Law and Order type thing where, there's it's a new mystery every time that you don't necessarily have to be caught up on 30 years of history to enjoy.
That's good.
Also, it's Summer Games Done Quick this week.
Yay!
Which I always look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not familiar, Summer Games Done Quick and Awesome Games Done Quick are charity events that are done once a year, each one in summer and one like in winter, where speedrunners from all around the world come to one location and for a week straight, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they're speedrunning the games that they've practiced, all for charity. So people are offering donations.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. It's a really fun time.
And it's up on Twitch, and then you can also check it out on YouTube. What I find super great about these is that it's never like a dude speedrunning a game. It's always a team. And so they've developed, various techniques and like little shortcuts. And while one person is, driving the game, actually playing it, there's always one guy on point who doesn't have a controller in his hand who's explaining everything that's happening and explaining like why it's novel, why it's new, why it's cool. So like it seems like something that should be super dense and unapproachable, but like they're very good at making sure you understand what's cool and what's impressive about what they're doing. It's a super fun time. It doesn't to me, the whole like watching other people play video games, like Twitch culture, doesn't totally make sense to me. But games done quick, it like defies that and is cool in and of itself.
There's already been a couple of world records broken this year. One of them, I think, was for Battletoads that just totally destroyed
I saw
the
this guy,
previous
yeah.
record. And it's always fun when they like accidentally do it, because when they're doing streams, like live streams for charity, they expect to not do like
Right.
their best.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fun when they accidentally break a world record. And you'll always get, there's like awful games done quick is a section they have every time. You get some cool ones like 2 people on 1 controller.
Mm-hmm.
And this Summer Games Done Quick is all the money raised goes to Doctors Without Borders, so it's a really good cause. You can check it out, like Patrick said, on Twitch or on gamesdonequick.com,
where you can also donate.
And then finally, today, July 4th at 7 p.m. Pacific time, original Star Fox programmers Dylan Cuthbert and Giles Goddard, who are now with Q Games, are going to be live streaming Star Fox on Q Games' Twitch channel. That's Q Games TV on Twitch. That should be really cool.
So they're streaming the original Star Fox?
They're streaming the original Star Fox
and talking about it.
Going to be talking about it.
I assume they will also mention Star Fox 2.
Probably, although they were completely taken by surprise with that Star Fox 2 was being released. They had no idea.
But Dylan Cuthbert, at least, has been super cool about it. And
Yeah.
is just, like, excited to see the game finally coming out into the wild. Again, this is a game that was done for all intents and purposes. Maybe not even that, just done. Was done, literally done, and never released. And now it's seeing the light of day because of this little system. And I don't know. I'm so excited to hear like more about why it was shelved and like the process of that game coming about as we get closer and closer to its release on the Super NES Classic Edition. There we go. Mark, let's get out of the news. That's going to do it for this news-centric episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. We will be back on Thursday, where we're going to be discussing the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild DLC, the Master Trials, etc., all of that good stuff. So come back on Thursday for that. Also, make sure you get some good time in on it, because Mark and I are going to go deep on it. All spoilers all the time. No, I mean, not real spoilers. This is not story stuff, right? Please check us out on Twitter. We are at NinCartSociety. Also, we're on Instagram right now at Nintendo Cartridge Society. Ditto the Facebook page, which is, again, just Nintendo Cartridge Society. We'd love for you to rate and review us on iTunes. Check out other podcasts on the What's Creative Podcast Network.
Let us know what you think about this new format.
Oh, yeah, we're splitting it up.
Yeah, having news on Tuesday, features on Thursday. So far, the things I've heard have been positive, but we're looking to solicit as many opinions as possible. So you can always hit us up.
I only end up listening to people who say positive things to me. I always end up running away and screaming. If you like Mark and Mine's opinions, you can check out our comic book reviews and discussions on retconpunch.com. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can check out his music on 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. From my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying we'll get to that first fight in Dragon Quest VII at some point. Thanks for listening.
What's a Creative Podcast Network?